Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Sunday Social. It's me, Martin, and I have Joanna who's joined us.
Hello.
Hello. All right. Well, let me introduce Joanna to everybody who's watching. And as usual, I have Joanna's bio here. So Joanna is an EFL teacher with 7 years of experience and a background in engineering. She began her teaching journey in Spain, working with children, teenagers, and occasionally adults in face-to-face settings. After 3 years, she transitioned to self-employment, focusing on online teaching through platforms like Preply and working with private students. She's been delivering business English courses for Spanish companies through an online language academy. And today she runs her own blog, Joanna ESL, where she shares lesson plans, insights from her teaching, and to help fellow educators save time and feel inspired in the classroom. So welcome.
Thank you. That's all true.
Okay. Well, actually, first of all, your background was in engineering. And what I'd like to get a sense of is what made you transition into English teaching, first of all?
Okay. So, well, I think that when I chose my studies at the age of 20, I was a little bit too young, I think, to decide what I wanted to do. So it was kind of a guess. And I stuck with it. I studied that. For 5 years. And then I got into working as an engineer. But as it turned out, being an engineer usually means sitting in front of the computer and writing a lot of emails and being on the phone, not really like the practical thing of it, which I had imagined was going to be. And then because of also the personal reasons, I decided to move to Spain. I'm originally from Poland, so I moved from Poland to Spain. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And I thought, okay, I speak English. It's very popular in Spain for foreigners to teach English. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try. And I messaged a lot of companies, and they pretty much all of them got back to me, and I got a job within 2 days. And I thought, okay, let's see how it goes. And it went very well. And it turned out that I'm a much better English teacher than an engineer. So that's what got me into English teaching. So kind of, I don't know, just faith, maybe. I don't know.
And do you see any similarities, I suppose, between engineering and that sort of mindset when it comes down to work and planning and the administrative side, and maybe the planning and the lessons and the teaching? Is there any connection between the two?
I suppose there is. I mean, there is a lot of this administrative aspect of it. Like, yes, I didn't like sitting in front of the computer, and that's pretty much what I do right now, most of the days, all day, every day. So, but it's a little bit different because I'm doing what I actually like. So the administrative aspect of it is I understand what I do. I know that I have to, do my taxes. I know how to send invoices. This is my business right now. But yes, there's also like the aspect of planning and sending emails. So there's a lot of connections, I suppose.
That's great. Well, obviously you mentioned computers and sitting in front of the computer. And I suppose, since COVID-19 and the pandemic, a lot of teachers transitioned over into online teaching. But I guess a lot was forced, but what inspired you? What was the driver for you when it came to online teaching?
Well, now that you mentioned it, yes, the pandemic was a big aspect of it, because before that, I had taught only in person, face to face. As you mentioned, I worked with children, I worked with teenagers primarily, face to face. And then during the pandemic, there was an occasion to actually try to do something online. And yes, I was afraid of this. I didn't understand how it worked, but it turned out to be easier than working face to face for me. I understand that there are people who prefer to they like to be with students face to face. They like to be in contact with them, especially with children. But it was kind of a way to get out of teaching children because I didn't really enjoy it. Yeah, I got into firstly hybrid. So I was teaching, I'm not sure if I had mentioned it to you before, probably, but I was teaching in Alicante for some time in Spain. And this was during this transition period between the pandemic and going back to the normality. And we had a lot of students in class, and they also wanted to include online students. So I was teaching hybrid, having students online and in person at the same time. And I thought it was a little bit too much for me. And I thought that it's better just to focus maybe on one group, because it's really difficult to divide your attention between the classroom setting and the online setting, because I had to do it simultaneously.
I see. Yes, it can be kind of stressful whilst you're teaching in class and then also trying to engage with students who are connecting online.
You tend to kind of forget about them at times because you don't see them. Sometimes they don't have cameras on, so they don't speak as much. You don't see their body language. You don't know if they understood everything. So it's a little bit more complicated.
Yes. And I suppose you have to make that concerted effort if you're teaching in a hybrid setting to engage or to try and entice and encourage those that are joining remotely to your in-class lessons.
And maybe put them in pairs. This was another thing, like trying to put them in pairs with people in the classroom, and almost impossible. It was doable. It was feasible, but it was kind of hard also with the internet connection. But yeah, basically after that, I realized that I preferred to teach mostly online, and I just got into online teaching.
Okay, so that was your I suppose your drive, your first start, and let's roll back to the first lesson that you had teaching online. How was it? What was it like?
I can't remember, but maybe I just repressed this memory. I remember because I also did my CELTA online, which was the first time that they allowed to do this course online, because normally it is in person. And I remember this first lesson, and I was terrified. I just remember that I wasn't sure how to do anything. Because you are also afraid that maybe something doesn't work. Maybe they can't hear. Maybe, I don't know, they lose the connection. Some people are not really that good at technology also. So you have to take this into consideration, that you have to help someone. To answer your question, I don't know. I think I was just terrified. Probably it wasn't very good. My guess is that it was a mess.
And is there an online lesson, I suppose, which is memorable? Is that something you remember distinctly at all?
Well, since I started, probably that a lot. I know that, for example, right now, I have one group that I teach. They are business English students. And I remember the first time I started teaching them, and they were a little bit skeptical. They thought, we don't know, because they had some other teachers before, and they were a little bit skeptical of any English teacher. And I remember this transition, or like this progress, that they started trusting me more and more. And now pretty much every single lesson is memorable because we're having so much fun.
So that's great.
Yeah. So maybe it is, but not really like a memorable. That's a very difficult question.
Sorry if I'm asking the tough questions.
That wasn't on the list, I think. No, but if I remember something, I'll tell you. But right now, it's hard to pick, maybe.
Well, I suppose, once you get into teaching online, you tend to focus on a particular structure of lesson. For me, I like to focus on conversation and developing, and I have a set process, I guess. If it's a grammar lesson that I'm teaching, I would introduce the grammar, maybe encourage it through context, and then the next element would be getting the students to understand the difference, and then use a gap fill exercise, and then the final part of my lesson would be a conversation question focused directly on the particular grammar point. Is there a particular pedagogy that you follow when you teach online? Again, I'm very sorry, this isn't on my
that's
list.
okay. Freestyling. No, I think, yes, there is some kind of structure to my lessons. This is for sure. I usually start with a conversation related to the topic that I'm going to follow. So usually I have a theme for each class. So it can be, I don't know, if it's business English, maybe we're talking about outsourcing. So I will ask them something about, their opinions or about their experience with their companies about outsourcing. And then maybe it depends, but maybe I will play something for them, some recording, or show them some text related to outsourcing in this case. And then depending on what's the topic of the class or what is the focus of the class, maybe if it's grammar, then I will start showing, oh, look here, the grammar they used. So I don't really say from the beginning. So it really surprised me that you said that you are starting with this, because I noticed that my students are they're not fans of grammar. So whenever I say, oh, today will be grammar, they are immediately not into it. So if I sneak it in, it's a little bit better, I think.
Okay.
At least that's what worked for me.
Yes.
It also depends on the student, really.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I'm referring to this. I suppose my context is when I'm teaching students from maybe Germany or Russia, they or Korea, for example, where I'm based.
They enjoy.
They love their grammar.
Yeah.
Which is when I try and introduce it quite explicitly.
Yeah. I usually try to discuss it on the first lesson. I ask them, what do you want from me and from these lessons? Do you want me to explain it to you? Do you prefer me to send you some materials before the lesson? Because I have some students who like to study on their own, and then they feel better during the conversation. So then I have to also make this effort that, okay, so now I have to message you and tell you, this is what's going to happen on our next lesson. So please be ready. So
that's true. Yeah.
It really depends. I realize that for me, mostly older students prefer to have this kind of structure.
Yeah.
So it is quite interesting. I think they enjoy also doing some exercises with me, like the gap fill that you mentioned. The younger ones, not so much.
Yeah, of course.
They say, no, I can do it in my free time. Why would we do it here? And yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I suppose then that leads me to my third question on my list. So you've kind of answered it. You have that negotiation with the student about what their aims and objectives are, but how do you design engaging and effective lessons online? Is there anything else that you consider? Yeah.
Because I really like designing lessons. I think this is my strength. If there's one thing, this is it. And I used to have a different approach. I used to spend maybe 1 or 2 days a week just going outside, sitting in the garden and thinking. And I was really like planning the lesson based on what I had learned in CELTA. So it was very structured. You know what I mean? Like, this is the lead in, and I was thinking about the purpose of each stage. And it took some time. Now, maybe some people will disagree with me. I understand that. I go to ChatGPT and I mention what I talk about the student's needs, who the student is, etc. And then I say, okay, can you please suggest a lesson for me? And it does something. It is not very good, but it's a starting point. And then I look at maybe I ask it to do 2 or 3 lesson plans for me. just to see maybe different ideas, so I don't have to spend too much time designing something new or reinventing the wheel. At times it feels like. And it doesn't really suggest any input material. So this is where I come in, and I actually, look for something on the internet, on YouTube, whatever it may be. And then I try to go back to AI, ask again. But in the end, this is my structure, I think. Like, I ask it to help me, but it still needs me, I think, to create an engaging lesson.
Of course. I suppose for me, my perspective with ChatGPT is it's a tool, but then, when it comes to the teacher itself, that's your opportunity to develop what you wish and customize it the way you wish. Engineer a lesson.
Yes. It gives you some good ideas at times, because it's true that sometimes we are too, like, we have this box, and you have like a fixed lesson plan, or the elements of a lesson plan in your head. And if no one tells me to change something, I will probably follow the same structure over and over again.
Yes.
And the same activities, because they're easy for me. So this is a way that sometimes it suggests something, and I think, oh, this is actually quite nice.
That's great. Yeah. It's a good idea, a good thought. And anyone who's tuned in, anyone who's watching live, feel free to share your thoughts and ideas about these generative AI tools and how best you would apply it with your lesson planning.
There are so many now, actually. I saw a lot of new websites that focus only on lesson planning, and this is AI focused only on lesson planning, but they still need to work on that technology.
Of course.
But I suppose if you don't enjoy designing lessons and lesson planning, this is a great tool for you.
Yeah. That's true. Right. I'm just going to bring in today's sponsor. So this show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Education, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com. To explore their full range of titles, and use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your next order.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads. No distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. eduflix.com.
Hi secondary school teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculums. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org.
Did you know that every year, half of disadvantaged children who are top attainers at primary school don't go on to achieve top GCSE maths results? At Axiom Maths, we exist to change that. Our fully funded program helps schools nurture young mathematicians through weekly face-to-face maths circles, where pupils tackle challenging and exciting problems outside the national curriculum. With just under £3,000 annual funding, expert training and quality resources, we give schools everything they need to inspire the next generation of mathematical thinkers. Want to make a difference? Visit axiommaths.com today and join over 400 schools delivering math circles across the UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy.
Okay, well, some great ideas that you have highlighted when it comes down to lesson planning, particularly with the tools that we have at our disposal in this day and age. And I do remember having to spend my time not that long ago, maybe 5 years ago, typing out a gap fill exercise or typing out a vocabulary description matching exercise. It took a long time to create that, but now the tools that we have at our disposal make the planning and the material development a lot quicker and easier.
But still you need to review.
Of course you do. Yeah. It
Because
was only
unfortunately there are a lot of mistakes still, but it helps. It definitely helps.
It does. And it's nice, as you mentioned, to broaden your perspective when it comes down to delivering a particular lesson, rather than sticking to the same predictable structure. Otherwise, the students may get bored.
Absolutely. That it's always the same, that we start with a conversation, then she brings the text, and then we do this. So I think that it keeps them on their toes a little bit.
It certainly does. Well, I'm going to move on to our next question, and it's about the challenges of teaching online. You did mention briefly about hybrid, the challenges of teaching hybrid, and engaging with the students who are there remotely in a face-to-face classroom. But if it's solely an online experience that you're delivering, what challenges do you encounter, and how do you overcome those challenges?
There are some, for sure. I've mentioned this before, that there are people who are just not really good at technology. So you kind of have to hold their hand and explain everything step by step. But this is something that, yes, it takes time. But sooner or later they get used to it, they understand how things work, and then it's okay. Another thing, I have groups that I teach online, and I think this is a bigger challenge, because sometimes I want to, for example, put them into separate rooms. And here's the first challenge, that let's say if I want them to do pair work, I am limited to just one pair. I can't just tune in and tune out. Like I actually have to go from one room to another. So I don't hear everything, which is not really ideal, is it?
No.
But I sometimes may miss some things and they don't know, or I can't give them some corrections.
Yes.
I try, but sometimes it is impossible.
That's true.
Yeah.
I also have one group that they are all sitting, because it's a business, it's a company. So they are all together in the same conference room. And I am the only person who is not there.
So you mean physically in a conference room?
Physically, they are together, except for me. So there's a lot of echo. I have to tell them, okay, now mute your microphone, or I mute them. And I say, now your microphone on. So there's a lot of this kind of pointless talk about this. Now your microphone on. I can't hear you. Microphone on, microphone off. It's just exhausting. They got used to it by now, but...
Do you dedicate particular roles when it comes down to like those scenarios where you dedicate one student? Your role is as the microphone button, mute, turn on, or
no, because they all have to do. They all have separate laptops, so they all have. Yeah, they all have to be logged in.
Wow. Okay.
So this is a lot of, because that would be easy. If there was just one microphone, that would be fine. But unfortunately, there are 6 microphones. There's a lot of echo, and it is a mess at times.
But it's a technical mess. So I don't take it personally. I think, okay, this is something that we have to deal with. It is what it is.
So
Yeah.
I suppose it if we go back a little bit, maybe those initial lessons is to incorporate a sense of training.
It is. It really is. It's getting used to each other and seeing how I teach and what I want from you. So, for example, now when I put them into breakout rooms, that means that I actually physically put them in breakout rooms because I need to hear them separately, but I ask them to remove the headphones and just put the microphone
Okay.
so they don't get any echo
Of
and
course.
I can still hear them, which it's a lot of work. But now they are okay with this. Now I say, okay, it's just remove the headphones, put the microphone. We're good to go. But yeah, it took some time.
Yes. And I guess there's an assumption, isn't there, particularly when there's teaching online or any form of technology, that there's an assumption that everybody would be fine with technology, particularly teenagers or young adults, because everybody's on their smartphones. People assume that, okay, they're going to be great at technology. They're going to be good with their computers.
They work with computers all the time.
Yeah, but actually a lot of young adults, a lot of teenagers, they solely work on their mobile phones. They don't have, or they're not used to, or they don't have that digital literacy yet on how to use a computer. And I suppose it requires that continuous training and development, reflection, and getting the students to develop their skills.
But also when it's a one-to-one lesson and someone has a preference to use their mobile phone, for me, it's okay.
Yeah.
You should do whatever is most comfortable for you. But it's true that if I want to show you something, like I always tell them, if I want to show you something, or if I want to put on something on the whiteboard, you will not be able to see it as well. So this also requires this flexibility on my side. That okay, so this student, maybe they don't really see that well on their screen, so I have to think, okay, how can I show it in a way, or how can I do it in a different way to adapt to them? So I suppose that's another challenge that we have in here, to adapt to every single person and their preferences.
Very true. Yeah. Well, I'm going to move on to our next question. And how do you manage your time? Actually, I'm going to change it slightly. So obviously, working, teaching online can be quite stressful, and it can take a lot of energy out of you. So how do you balance that when you're teaching? How do you balance online and offline?
It used to be more stressful for me. So I think the element of stress is a little bit removed from this equation. There's a lot of exhaustion, like physical exhaustion, I think, because I have to be in the same position looking at the screen for the whole day. Also not very good. So I try to book my lessons in a way that I have some time to go out to the garden, just sit and look at something in a distance, because it's really bad I can see that my eyesight is not improving, that's for sure. But no, just to spend some time outside. Since I work from home, I also try to book my lessons in a way that I have time to eat.
Yes.
So I think this is quite important, that I just don't sit down and do all the lessons at once. I think it's impossible. So I just schedule a lot of half an hour, sometimes 2 hours in between lessons for me.
Yes.
I didn't used to do that. I used to be more focused on, I have to retain students and I have to be available to them all the time, which maybe was needed at that stage of my teaching journey. Maybe not. Maybe it was more me and the way I was thinking. But now I prioritize this time off.
Yes, that makes sense. Particularly, I suppose, when you go back, where are we? 5 years ago, during the pandemic, it was quite precarious. Everybody was unsure about how things were going to develop, and there wasn't really much that people could do apart from working remotely, teaching online, and being stuck within their four walls, I guess. But at times, I guess times have evolved and things have developed. And yeah, it does make sense. For me personally, I also try and schedule in time where I'm just going, okay, I'm going to spend a couple of days away from my screen. I'm not going to focus too much on screen. You could get screen fatigue, I guess. And it's nice to, because a lot of people work from home these days, that you have a particular office, but you have a separate place to work, or not to work, but to get away from your home office, I guess.
Not to see the computer all the time.
Yes, exactly.
But it's true that it's difficult to escape it, because then once you finish working, like teaching, working as in teaching, you have to still prepare lessons, you have to do the administrative thing that we discussed. So there is always this element that, yes, I have to go back to it, but I usually do it. Now I have a different system. I usually have my Fridays off, unless it's like an emergency class. What I mean by it, sometimes students need to postpone and there's no time. So I say, okay, Friday. So Friday is for those lessons. And usually I have a Friday off. So I manage it in this way, that it's more administrative day, sending emails. Because also teaching it's very intense. Yes. You can't just switch off. I think that when you do like an Excel sheet or whatever, like you can kind of zone out for a second or two. During teaching, you really don't have this, this break.
Yeah, you don't have the luxury of switching off. It's very intense. It takes a lot out of you, which is kind of, it's not really spoken about when it comes down to that. But yeah, it certainly is quite intense, having to listen to individual or group of students.
And note any mistakes, and you actually have to be in it. You can't just, now I take a break for 15 minutes. No, it's impossible. You can't.
Yes. And I suppose, yes, as you mentioned, if you've got a block of lessons, 3-4 hours, it's hard. It's hard work. It takes a lot out of you.
I usually have maximum of 4 hours in a row, because more than that, I think I would just lose my mind. Really, it's difficult to focus for that long. It's not fair also for the other students towards the end of your day.
That's true. That's very true.
And you shouldn't say, oh, sorry, today I'm not really. No, you're providing a service. You can't just say that today I'm not really feeling it right now. So let's take it easy. No, they paid. And you should give them the same quality of service as for the rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to move into maybe routines and maintaining that productivity, that creativity. What sort of routines or habits do you have when it comes down to being more productive or more creative as a teacher?
I think this is probably one of the hardest questions on this list. I have some sort of routine. Since I work from home, it is very easy for me to just sometimes say, today I have a lesson, I don't know, at 1 p.m. So I'll stay longer in bed. I try not to do it. I try to always follow the same schedule, my own schedule that I have. Because once I kind of abandon this idea, then this is it. This is game over for me. So I try to have breakfast at the same time, then maybe do something around the house, and then I get into teaching. So this is how I try to be productive. But the creativity part, it's a little bit more difficult, because I think it's impossible to be creative all the time. You have better days and you have worse days. For me, creativity comes at night or in the evening. So this is when I usually sit down with the blog, or I plan the lessons, whatever. Like I have my creative moment in the evening. I don't know. There's like this burst, there's like the final burst of energy in the evening that somehow works.
Yes. That's true. That's good. That's
But
everybody finds their what works best for them, I suppose.
but I don't have the answer to this. I don't know how to stay productive. Sure, like maybe schedule lessons, give yourself some kind of routine. This is what I have to do. But creativity, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just sit down and I try to write something, and sometimes the creativity comes in later, but not always. I don't know. I don't know. How do you do it? Do you have some secret recipe for that?
Well, for me personally, I suppose the creativity for me, if I need time to just digest ideas and to have that time. Maybe if I'm going out and I'm walking around and I'm thinking about, a video or thinking about a lesson or something like that, maybe that idea comes from me just walking or experiencing something. And then the next step would be for me to just write down and brainstorm ideas. And then once I've got a particular thing that I want to work on, I try and work on it,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, I'm susceptible to procrastination. So, I'm thinking, okay, how best can I,
I
perfect
know.
this? But
You don't
then,
have to tell me about procrastination.
but then, that creativity hopefully drives that production,
Yeah.
that sort of essence of creating something. As long as you get something created, produced, then that's the next thing forward, rather than maybe relying or looking at excuses like, I can't do it at the moment because it's not the best time of day, or I really want to try and perfect this. Maybe perfection as well is an excuse of not doing something in a way.
Could be, but I think I agree with your point on creating like the first rough draft, maybe, because sometimes it actually helps. Like I do something and I'm not very happy with it, but then I come back to it the next day and I'm happy that I already have something done, that I don't have to start from the beginning. And then maybe there was some idea that came in later and I work on, like I improve the project that I'm already working on. I thought of something as you were speaking. Sometimes this creativity, maybe more inspiration and creativity, comes from students. As you know, I prepare lesson plans. So sometimes students tell me about something, and then I think it's a good idea.
A good topic, a good idea. Yeah.
It really helps. I have one student now. She's an insurance broker. And she told me about like the weirdest things that people insure, and I thought, wow, I have never thought about it, but now I will. But it is something that that they bring a topic that is so strange. You never thought about it once in your life, and it is interesting. And then you start getting into it, and then I have this burst of energy or this burst of creativity coming from this student. So maybe, in a way.
Yes. It's an interesting topic, and it's certainly worth considering, particularly for those that are watching that want to try and get into maybe materials development, writing lessons, and obviously creating a lesson or creating materials for students to complete can be quite a long journey, and trying to produce something unique which is different to all the other materials which are out there is it's hard, it's not easy. And hopefully interacting with people, getting away from your office gives you some inspiration, some perspective of maybe I should look at this, developing the material.
Yeah, I know that it's very niche, and then you create lesson plan just for one student. I understand that, but sometimes okay, now I'll change the topic a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right, go ahead.
That sometimes when you teach one-to-one, when you have one student and developing a lesson plan just for them, they like it because you show that you actually think about them. You show this kind of appreciation for them, for what they do, and that you actually thought about them in your free time and you created something and it's personalized. And I think it kind of helps you retain that student for longer because you're offering something that probably other tutors don't.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to mention our sponsor for anyone who has just recently joined. This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt, educational publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. And if you want a little bit of a deduction or from your order, you can use a code JCTTR 2024-2025. That's JCTTR 2024-2025 for 20% off your next order. Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to move into maybe revenue streams for those online educators, teachers, freelancers. What sort of revenue streams are available for those budding online teachers or those online educators, do you think?
Well, first of all, private lessons. I think this is probably the biggest source, at least for me. The one-to-one lessons bring the most money for me. Using online platforms too, now not so much, but it used to be a big source for me, source of money. Also material creation, speaking from my experience, it doesn't bring like a lot of money, but it brings something. It's always nice around Christmas, Halloween. I see some spikes. So yeah, like creating some of your own and then selling it, especially with PDFs or, like worksheets, whatever. This is quite nice that you create something one time and you can sell as many of it as you want. Because you don't have to, like, it's always in stock. You don't have to recreate this lesson plan. So that's quite nice. But it's not a lot of money, I think. I think you would have to have like a huge platform to... At least, I don't know if you have the same experience. I don't know if you sell your lesson plans.
No. Well,
No.
I suppose for me, it's the metaphor of a snowball, particularly those that want to get started in online teaching or increasing their revenue stream. And it starts off as a small pebble, I suppose, and it builds up over time, and you gain that momentum. And yes, I suppose having that initial thought and idea to share lessons and develop material and to sell it will increase revenue around, rather than just putting all your eggs in one basket and just solely relying on one source of income. And if there is the opportunity to increase your income through multiple streams, then it would make sense, and it differentiates you compared to those that are just teaching English online.
But that's also fine. If that's what people prefer, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think not everyone is made for lesson planning. And I fully understand that. Some people just don't enjoy it. That's okay. But yeah, for me, that would be sharing my experiences online via my blog. It brought some money. I was a bit surprised that I wasn't sure if it's possible to make money writing. And it is. I have sometimes my blog pays for itself. Let's just say that. It's not a lot, but I have enough for the subscription. Like you do, you also produce videos online. And I know some teachers who use Instagram to promote, maybe not their business, but they bring some kind of information. And I think people prefer that there's one content creator, and he shows different websites that you should use, that teachers should know. I think you know Charlie. Maybe you
Yes,
saw.
yes.
Yeah, Charlie's
I know
lessons.
Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, for example, he has this kind of niche that he explores the websites that teachers like. Why not? Something like this could be also interesting. I'm thinking of other revenues.
I suppose there's affiliate marketing as well, isn't there? Because you can recommend a book, or you can recommend a source, or then that will increase revenue opportunities as well. And I suppose for the online educator, or the entrepreneurial online educator, it's just spreading that opportunity, increasing the probability that things will go your way.
But with the affiliate links, I don't know if you have similar experience. I have not a lot, but I have people reaching out to me with some kind of websites, some ideas, and then they offer me some money, but I'm not sure about their product. And that's kind of tricky, because you kind of want this money, but at the same time, you don't want to promote something that you don't truly believe in.
That's true, and there's a sort of pendulum, isn't there? But then this leads me into the other aspect of for those that want to try and improve their recognition within the online teaching sphere. There's video creation, there's website development, and various other things. But for those that just want to do online teaching, it can be, what else is there for them to do to connect with just online teachers?
If you really don't want to create anything, or if you don't feel it, if it's not something that you enjoy, you can join social media and just participate and talk to other teachers. Just be active on social media. I know that it's coming from me, and I'm not really that active. I have moments that I'm very active and then I forget about it. Or I try something and then I just forget about it. So it's a flaw that I have. But in a way, it helps you. It connects you to other teachers. And if you build this relationship online, it can help you getting some other jobs, maybe outside of this, looking for private students or using platforms. This is how I got one job in Spain. I connected with one girl online. We were talking. I think I used her idea in my lesson plan. And she messaged me, I think 2 years later. And she said, look, we are looking for teachers, and here we are. So somehow an opportunity came up from this interaction that I wasn't looking for anything. It was very spontaneous.
I suppose you have to be at the right place at the right time. Digitally, virtually, I suppose, online.
Because I wasn't connecting, I have to connect with this person because they can give me something. In a sense, also with you, maybe. I know that we connected online, but then I wasn't looking for anything from you. But then you still reached out to me, and we had, this is our second conversation. So in a way.
Well, thank you ever so much for agreeing to come on and share your thoughts and ideas. It's great.
No, but you know what I mean. It comes, there's some recognition, and then you start following each other, interacting, and then there is this connection.
Of course.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's any kind of point. I don't know.
Well, it kind of, who knows? Who knows at the end of the day? One thing I like to ask teachers that come on to the Sunday Social is, where they see the future of education, and maybe what are your thoughts and ideas about the future of online teaching? Are they quite optimistic? Are are they quite pessimistic? What's your takeaway?
I think mostly optimistic. I think a lot of people enjoy this freedom of joining a class whenever they feel like it and being in a one-to-one setting from the comfort of their own homes. That they don't have to go to the academy. It's a chore going to an academy. It can be. It doesn't have to be, but it can be for many. So I think it is here to stay. I would, I heard from some people that, with AI, and I also saw advertisements. I don't know if you have seen those, that you can chat. Why would you pay for a class if you can talk to an AI bot? And I thought, well, I suppose if you don't have money, sure, it is better than doing nothing.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads, no distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. Eduflix.com.
Hi secondary school teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculums. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org.
Did you know that every year, half of disadvantaged children who are top attainers at primary school don't go on to achieve top GCSE maths results? At Axiom Maths, we exist to change that. Our fully funded program helps schools nurture young mathematicians through weekly face-to-face maths circles, where pupils tackle challenging and exciting problems outside the national curriculum. With just under £3,000 annual funding, expert training and quality resources, we give schools everything they need to inspire the next generation of mathematical thinkers. Want to make a difference? Visit axiommaths.com today and join over 400 schools delivering maths circles across the UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy.
Yeah.
But I think people still need this personal aspect of the class. They want to have a relationship with you. They want to have a relationship with a tutor.
Yes.
It's not going to be replaced.
Yes,
so
that's
I think we'll see. Time will tell. But I think at the moment I'm not worried about my job. That's me.
I remember a number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago, actually in South Korea, they were coming up with a variety of different ideas about how could they incorporate a new method of teaching. And one was to install robots in the classroom. And when you think robots, you think of, bionic robots or that sort of thing.
Almost like humans.
Yes, but it wasn't. It was like a sort of one of those platforms with wheels at the bottom and a screen in the middle of it. And there was a drive towards teachers being recruited outside of the country to deliver a lesson, and their face would appear on the screen on this robot, I guess.
Interesting.
And I suppose the point I'm making is you've got every few years there's an idea that comes in to play where, okay, South Korea, robots are going to be teaching kids English, or robots will replace English teachers. But now it's AI is going to replace the teachers, or AI is going to replace the interaction with human educators. And I am likely to consider that the real teacher, I'm pretty confident that the real teacher will be more highly regarded than a computer which just responds to input.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly my thought.
Yeah.
That when you have a student for a long time, their something about their family, like you can go back and relate to something. This is the relationship that they're looking for. You ask about their well-being, you're asking about, I don't know, their jobs, like you remember certain things, and they like it. They like that you remember.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I recall teaching a particular student about, again, I mentioned about grammar, and it was like should and must. And they brought up the idea that, they brought up the fact that their husband was celebrating a birthday the previous day, and it kind of got me straight into the mind of, what should you bring and what mustn't you bring to a birthday party? So everything was starting to come together at that point.
and you can connect it, and you can make it personal, and that is the challenge also that you talked about, like challenge of teaching in general. That you have to be quick, but it comes with experience. Because if you teach grammar and vocabulary or English in general, like that, this is perfect for teaching this grammar, so then you just combine it. So I don't think we will be replaced. I hope not. No, I don't think.
Right. Well, I've got a question from Roger here. Roger's History. What is your view of future? What is your view on the future of teaching online? Okay. Well, for me personally, the future of online teaching, I guess it's going to stay. There's always going to be new opportunities, new developments with online teaching. We've got the AI revolution, I guess, at the moment. But it's going to go part and parcel with how we deliver lessons. And I suppose there was an era, if we go even further back, that the computer was considered a threat in the classroom. Then there was a huge shift towards incorporating technology in the classroom. There was a shift towards the internet, and there was a lot of perceived threats towards the internet that it's going to replace knowledge. But then we've got encyclopedias. It didn't really replace knowledge, did it? But so my view is that online teaching is just one strand of education which is going to stay regardless of the evolutions of technology.
I think so too, and I think it will be, as we talked about before, implemented into lesson creation. It's a tool.
Yeah,
it's just one of them. That's it. And I personally, I enjoy this tool. I think it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. My final question is perhaps about doubt and imposter syndrome. I do suffer from it, but particularly with regards to my music. When I play saxophone and I play jazz music, I never studied jazz music in an academic setting. It's always been practiced. It's an art that I've developed. But I play with musicians who have studied music fully, completely, dedicated half their life or 3/4 of their life to that art form, whereas I'm there just to play what is my passion of jazz music on saxophone. How do you deal with imposter syndrome yourself, perhaps?
I like the connection.
I always try and make a connection.
No, but it's true that I don't have any like academic background in teaching. My academic background is in engineering, and at first I was almost ashamed. There was this feeling that I didn't want to speak about this. I was very worried that people were going to judge me. This feeling is not there anymore, I think. I don't feel like an imposter anymore. I used to feel every single day. But I think it's because of my experience. It's been 7 years now, and it's going quite well. And I think people appreciate me, and I have students who are with me for so long, who have been with me for so long. And I think this helped. Self-doubt? I don't know. It is, again, a very difficult question. And this is another one that I was really struggling with. I think it came with experience. That the more I just decided to stick with it, and I decided to go for it. And I studied a lot in my free time also. It's not that I just showed up to the classroom with nothing. No.
Yes.
If I had to teach something, I spent a lot of time making sure that I understand this concept. Because how am I supposed to teach someone something that I don't understand? So now I have this grasp of grammar and everything that I'm fine. But maybe
more comfortable, I suppose, now.
Of course, but also because when you teach something over and over again, like you kind of memorize it, you have your formula, you know how to speak about this, you have examples ready. Before I was really struggling with that. And now I just go, okay, this example, and I know exactly what to say. Self-doubt? I'm not sure. There are moments that I feel, oh, is it even good? What's the point? But I just go with it. Right now, I don't feel like I have the option to change anything.
Yes. I think for me, it was really early on in my career as an educator. And I had a lot of setbacks, I suppose, in my early career, particularly in the UK. And for those that aren't aware, I did spend 3 years of my life in South Korea in the early or mid 2000s teaching English. And then I moved to the UK, back home, and I continued my teaching career in the UK. And I was teaching multilingual classes. So I found I started back at the beginning again. Initially, it was monolingual classes, Korean students. And then I was pushed into a classroom of elementary Arabic learners of English, and I found it incredibly overwhelming. And I doubted myself: can I actually do this? Can I actually deliver a lesson that they're happy with? Is the director of studies going to be happy with what I've delivered? I've got an observation, and he's put me in the most difficult situation possible, but it certainly does help. And I think, had it not been through that process, had I not gone through that difficulty, I wouldn't have developed the confidence to be where I am today, if that makes sense.
No, because I feel the same way. That I also just try to do my best, and I try different things, and then I see what's a hit and what's a miss. Like also I reflect on my mistakes. If something goes terribly wrong, I think, okay, why? I believe it's my mistake. It's not because they didn't. It's them. They didn't understand. No, it's not their fault. It's my fault in the way that I was expressing myself.
Yes.
Or maybe I thought I assumed something wrongly, and I thought that they had a higher level. When you mentioned the elementary class, yes, I think this is probably the only setting when I feel right now a little bit nervous in, because I still feel like when it's at A2, B1 level, I think that it's okay. Like you can speak English, they understand. With A1, it can be really challenging, because you really have to go back to your own basics, and you have to say, how do I explain it in a good way without overusing the first language, because I don't want to use the first language that much. For me, it's like an emergency.
Yes.
But
yes,
it's not forbidden in the classroom. Just Just FYI. but you know what I mean. Like you don't want to go back. Like this is a cat is this in your language. Like this is not the class I want to deliver.
Yeah.
So there is, and I am struggling with one group right now. It's not that you mentioned, that I try to constantly think of something that they will be happy with at the end of the class.
Of course, and it's that reflection, I think, which is crucial when it comes down to developing your skills as a teacher, overall, an educator.
But also, like there's this reflection moment, but also don't be too harsh on yourself. Don't take things too personally. One bad class doesn't mean that you're a bad educator. You're not. It's just, it happens.
It does. It certainly does. Right. Well, we're going to finish off for today. And thank you ever so much, Joanna, for joining me for the Sunday Social. It was lovely to have you and to share our thoughts and ideas. And
it's been some time without talking. So.
And apologies for my rambling. But
no. It's a conversation. It's supposed to be like this, I think.
But yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on. And it would be great to have you back.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.